I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 29th of December, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. It's that week. It's the holiday week between Christmas and New Year's, so not a lot is going on around here, or in reality, much of anywhere. So I'm taking it kind of easy this week, spending a bit of time at home with the kids, hanging out, relaxing, getting some easier episodes done as we prepare for the New Year's celebrations and everything going on in the new year. My dogs are going a little bit crazy in the background. So this week, we're doing a lot lighter episodes. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the clothing you might want to bring with you or plan for if you're going to be traveling to, or even if you're going to be staying in Nicaragua. You might want to think a little bit about what you want to wear given the way that the weather and climate are. So we're going to get to that right after the bump. Regular viewer, Teacher Andrew, asked if I'm going to be coming to Nicaragua, what should I bring with me as far as clothing goes? All cotton materials are probably not ideal, and I would say you're correct. Cotton is a little bit heavy, although you can certainly get away with it. So if you're coming to Nicaragua, first of all, we're a full country, so the weather does vary a little bit, but for the most part, there is extremely few places in Nicaragua that are going to get colder than 75 degrees, and very few where you're going to experience anything hotter than 95. Humidity tends to be high, but not really high, just on the high side. It's reasonable. Like right now, it is a beautiful day. It's probably in the 80s, and the humidity is not really noticeable. It is certainly not dry. That is the one thing you are not going to find. You will find medium humidity, and there will be times where it's high. Mostly it's in the medium high, but really you never get anything like desert conditions or, Arizona, nothing like that. It is relatively humid, which makes for a lot of people quite comfortable, but very warm time here in Nicaragua. So the one thing you never have to plan for is cold weather clothing. You may want to bring pants with you, whether it's like travel pants, something that are relatively light but do cover your legs. And reasons for this are if you're going to something slightly more formal, Nicaraguans do wear jeans or pants of some sort on many occasions. So you may want to have that option while you're here, depending on what you're going to be doing. If you're going to be living here for certain, you need it. If you're going to go to a government office, you're going to visit anything formal, they will require that you wear pants. It's considered polite to do so. For men, for women, you can definitely get away with shorts and skirts all the time. You never have to cover your legs. There's nothing like, it's not a conservative country. It's not like Southeast Asia where you have to have things covered in order to go to certain places. It's not like that. So women can really get, as long as they're dressing nicely, you can get away with just about anything. But for men, there's this odd requirement in many cases, even to go into like a meeting at the beer company, you have to wear pants or they won't let you in the door. But they can be old, dirty, beat up jeans. They don't care what it is, as long as they're long and uncomfortably warm. It's a very odd, for Americans, cultural tradition, but it is what it is. So if you're male, as Teacher Andrew is, make sure you have at least one pair of pants as an option. And in reality, once you've lived here for any amount of time, I wear jeans to things. So it's really heavy, full-on blue jeans, not a problem. That only works when it's not a super hot day. Obviously, on super hot days, that would be outrageously uncomfortable. But when we first got here, it was like had to be shorts all the time, and now that's not a problem like it was. So that it depends on what you're used to at home and what time of the year and where you're going in the country. If you're going to be up in Jinotega and it's December and you're doing formal things, jeans won't be a problem at all. If you're going to be here in Leon or in Jinotega where it's super hot and you're going to be here during the hot months and you're going to be outside in the middle of the day, then jeans will be unbearable. So your mileage will be based on that. For the most part, for almost everyone who's coming down, especially if you're coming down on a vacation, you're going to want shorts or skirts, as far as, or it could be dresses. Women, always have a slightly different set of options, right? So you could do with shorter dresses or lighter dresses, with skirts, you could do shorts. There's a lot of things. And of course, really close fitting, more sheer breathable materials can do just fine. Now, there is a lot of sun here. So for a lot of people, you may want to cover up, especially if you're very, very pale, to make sure you have coverage. And so that's a reason why some people will wear pants. If you have more material options, consider things like linens and bamboos, because those will breathe really, really well. They're meant for these kinds of conditions. They tend to work quite well, and they'll keep the sun off of you. Now, if you're like me, I don't have any problem. I never have to cover up for the sun except for the top of my head, which is one of the reasons why you see me in hats all the time. You can say, yes, you're wearing hats because you're bald, but that's why I'm exposed to the sun, is because I'm bald. If I had hair, I wouldn't be exposed to the sun in the same way. It wouldn't be a problem, although I still need to keep some of it off of my face. So that kind of stuff you may want to consider. In general, though, this is Nicaragua. We are low-lying. So unlike Guatemala or a lot of regions around Latin America and other places, we're not at altitude, so we're not getting that really hefty UV radiation that you get in other latitudes or in other parts of Latin America. So while there's a lot of sun and it's very bright and it's very warm, the chances that you're actually going to burn here are much lower than in other places. Of course, we are very beach heavy. We have a lot of ocean. And so if you're going to be spending a bit of your time, especially if you're on vacation, you're heading to the beach, you want to lay out and be able to tan, okay, plan accordingly. You will not tan as fast as someone who is planning to tan would think, but it is easy to spend a lot of time outdoors and not really realize it. Because of the lower UV rates, you don't get that feeling of burning right away. Like if I step outside in Bolivia or Guatemala, I tend to feel the UV radiation just like that and go, ooh, I need to cover up. But here in Nicaragua, I'll go, oh, it's bright, but I don't think about covering up because I don't feel it. Now, I've never once in all the years I've been here have I burned in Nicaragua, and I'm outside a lot. If you watch my shows a lot, you know I go walking for hours out in the sun. I don't have a problem with the sunlight, so it's not anywhere near as bad as you would think, but of course, always provide UV protection for yourself, whatever that entails for you. I don't have to worry about covering my legs, but that is a reason why some people bring pants when coming to Nicaragua, even if you're going to be hanging out on the beach or whatever. And it does allow you to walk around the city a little bit more, feel a little bit more covered up, a little bit more formal, like a lot of people. But there's tourists in nearly any place you would go, Granada, Leon, even Matagalpa. Wearing shorts is not going to be a problem. And lots of locals wear shorts as well. So you have some flexibility there. As far as materials, like I said, linens and bamboos are fantastic. A lot of the artificial materials that breathe really well. You do want materials that breathe a bit. One thing that is almost certainly going to happen is you're going to sweat. Nicaragua is a country of being outside and outdoor activities and walking places and zipping around cities, and it's pretty much always warm, even at night. So plan on both daytime clothing options that are very light and breathe well, probably lighter colors. You don't want to be absorbing any more of the sun than absolutely necessary, but also expect that when it's nighttime, whether it's your sleeping arrangements or you're going out to dinner, that you have cooler clothes for that as well. The evenings here, when around dinner time, are actually pretty warm because we hit our maximum heat at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that carries on into that 6, 7, 8 o'clock range, and there's a lot of concrete in most of Nicaragua where you're likely to be, and it's going to cook that, and you're going to feel that all through the evenings, and you don't get that cooler temperatures until much closer to midnight. Once you're going to bed, if you're at kind of normal Nicaraguan hours, it's not too bad, and by the middle of the night, it's generally pretty pleasant, and it's standard for Nicaraguans to not only sleep without air conditioning, but to do so without their windows open, because there's a superstition that open windows leads to fevers. I no idea where that comes from. Certainly does not contribute to actually good health by not having fresh air and sleeping in such warm conditions, but they do generally believe that being barefoot or breathing fresh air when inside a house makes you ill, but they don't feel that breathing fresh air when you're outside does, which is odd. Anyway, a little bit of Nicaraguan superstitions there. So when you're here, definitely plan on clothing around warm weather and don't bother bringing things for cold weather. There's no chance that you're going to be cold. That is not going to happen. You may be pleasant, you may be warm. That is the range. There is no cold to warm. It doesn't matter what time of year you're coming. It's just always going to be that way. Now, rain jackets. In general, you never see people in rain jackets here. It's not a popular thing, and for a very important reason. It's always warm. The chances that you're going to be out in the rain and it's going to be cool is very unlikely. So first of all, it only rains half the year. For 6 months, we have no rain at all. For the 6 months that it's raining, yeah, we get a bit of rain, but it's very warm rain. So most people simply go out and get wet because you're already warm. You might already be sweaty. The rain isn't a big deal. If you're in a real tropical storm where it's going to actually get cold, it's going to be really, really heavy, you're not going to want to be out in that regardless of what you're wearing. So we generally don't worry about raincoats. I wouldn't, under normal circumstances, worry about bringing one with you unless you're doing something very specific, like you know you're going to be hanging out a lot in a cloud forest and you think it's going to work out for you. But remember, the majority of raincoats don't breathe super well, and breathing materials or materials that breathe is at the very top of what you want to consider when coming down. Generally, if you do get rained on significantly, you're not going to be cold, and once it stops raining, you'll probably dry pretty quickly. And because of the way Nicaragua is, people kind of have this expectation that you're going to be wet some of the time. Like, people get sweaty if you're going out and working. Like, it's a very different thing. If you're in the United States or Canada especially, there's this feeling of like you never want to be sweaty, you never want to be damp, like that, like it's a major concern. And I grew up in New York, right? I totally get why it feels that way. And as soon as I'm back in the States, I'm always like, ooh, I gotta, you can't be sweaty at all, like it's awkward. But when you're in Nicaragua, because it's warm all the time, and because everybody's warm all the time, and people need to work outside, need to walk from place to place, and businesses don't want to pay for air conditioning to keep their business or restaurant cool, like it just isn't practical, and you don't want to have that problem where you're coming in and out of cold to hot and cold to hot. That makes you sweat so much more in many cases. So people adapt to having that small amount of sweat all the time, and it really isn't weird. It isn't awkward. It's a weird thing to say, but it really does change, like the perception both of yourself and of others that being a little bit damp, that you're going to sweat from time to time, is absolutely just a normal human thing that no one thinks twice about, can throw you off. And so that part, not a problem. So if it rains on you and you're a little bit damp, like nobody cares, no one's going to think twice, no one's going to notice. And you probably won't notice because it's a different feeling being here. But wearing a raincoat, you will actually encourage yourself to sweat, possibly even while it's raining on you, which is like the worst possible thing. Instead of being wet with nice clean rainwater, now you have sweat on you unnecessarily, and you're carrying around a coat that's wet on the outside. It's not ideal. It seems odd to say that raincoats just aren't a thing. And if you lived here, sure, having a raincoat could be beneficial. There might be moments where you're like, I'm just going to bundle up and run through the rain and get to somewhere. Sure. But if you're coming down for a vacation, that feels like, under normal circumstances, a lot of heavy packing that you could do without. The chances that you're going to be out in the rain in a situation where you'll have your raincoat, want to be out in the rain, actually want to put that raincoat on, and prefer the sweat over the rain is so unlikely. Pretty much no matter what you're doing, I would say it's not worth bringing it. Just go out in the rain. It's not a cold rain. It might be a little bit chilly because you're used to the 95 degrees and suddenly the rain comes and it's colder than that, so it feels a little bit cold. Okay, but it's not going to be a cold rain. It is going to be a very warm rain, and you can just go out and get a little bit wet. You're not made of sugar, as much as it may feel that way sometimes. So that would be my recommendation. Always, as a general rule for packing, you want to pack lighter than you think. Everyone brings too much stuff when traveling. Carrying luggage, sorting through clothes, dealing with stuff, moving it from place to place is almost always a mistake. You want to be as lean as possible. If you absolutely must, you can generally buy something in a place where you are if you really need it. Otherwise, you want to travel on the light side and keep things flexible from a movement standpoint, because those are the things you know are going to be used. There's some things you need to have with you, some things you can't, take chances on or whatever, but things like a raincoat, heavy clothing, keep that as absolutely little as possible. I would bring one potential pair of pants, nothing fancy, keep it light, linens, bamboos, those travel pants that people often wear, sometimes the ones that zip off at the bottom, that can be great. Jeans if you absolutely have to, shorts or skirts, things that are very short and light that you can get lots of air because you're going to want to stay cool. Oh, a beautiful breeze as I say that. Keep your shirts to things that are comfy and light and breathe really well. That's important. And just plan on that you're going to be in the sun. Bring a hat if you need to, but it's easy to buy hats here. And think about the fact that you're going to be at a reasonable warm all of the time, and you're not going to be facing cold, and you don't need flexibility for those things. And I really think a rain jacket is almost certainly overkill. I really can't think of any time that I've been with anybody who said, I wish I had a rain jacket. So that is my recommendation for that. And we're going to talk just a little bit about things we had going on today before we wrap up. Our cat had to visit the vet today. She's had what we believe is a bladder infection. We're hoping just some antibiotics are going to be needed. And so she went in this morning. She was supposed to go yesterday, but we missed it. That's Minerva, who is named after Minerva McGonagall from Harry Potter, because she is a cat who looks just like the cat form of the professor. So she has been having like a urinary tract infection or something of that nature, we think, and so she is in seeing Dr. Jorge today, and she will be coming home tomorrow, hopefully with some medicine, and will be feeling a bit better. So the girls are very nervous as their cat is gone for the day at the vet, and of course we know there's something wrong. She's bleeding internally. This is a thing that happens to cats, so we're pretty hopeful that it's not too bad. But they're very nervous about her here at the house, and they know that she's very scared of being away, so they're sad that she's not here and they can't watch over her. But she has painkillers, and hopefully we'll get her back feeling better tomorrow. So tonight was a game night for the girls and I. In the afternoon, Luciana played some Red Dead Redemption 2, which she's really enjoying. And then Liesl played a little bit. She's been mostly playing The Sims. And then this evening, we had some time a little bit on the early side to sit down. And so the girls and I spent the evening playing Nancy Drew 2, Stay Tuned for Danger. This is one we played a session the other night. And this is game number 2. This is the hard one to get. No download service has this. You have to go to Her Interactive directly and buy it from the original vendor. It's the only one like this, and I have no idea why. And it works fine on Windows 11. We had no problem getting it working. We actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. It's from 1999, and it's not been updated, but it does work, and it's pretty well done. It's from an era where they were doing a good job with the games, and they had figured out how to make it. I think it's better than the first Nancy Drew, and it's a shame that it's missing from so many services because it is a good game. But with this one completed, and it's pretty quick. I think we did it in about 4 hours as a team, and with this, we have now completed the first contiguous 19 games in the series, and we have 25 out of the 33 totally completed. So it was very cool that we got to finish that. So that was our evening. Nancy Drew 2, Stay Tuned for Danger. Thanks for taking the time to join us here on the Scott Allen Miller vlog here in our holiday week as we wrap up the year. As always, like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. If you could share on social media, tell your friends, find someone who's interested in this material or similar and let them know about the show, get them addicted too. That would be fantastic. Thanks for joining me. I will see all of you tomorrow.